Hey everyone, this is Mr. Maciek, and in this video I'm going to be talking about different owner financing situations that I have gone through. This is of great value, so please stick around for this video. Alright, thanks for watching. We're going to get right into it, but before we do, please like and subscribe to this channel. And also, I have a TikTok that is very active, posting 1 minute or less videos very similar to this one. So please look me up. So let's get into it. What is about owner financing when it comes to real estate? You know, it's not for everyone, it's not for every seller, it's not for every buyer. In a nutshell, owner financing is when we all get to win accomplishing our goals. Sometimes there are properties out there that are in such disrepair that we cannot get any conventional financing. So the buyer pool goes from this huge amount of people to this few amount of people that have cash, or will get a hard money loan. That is another option. So an owner that has a decrepit property may not want to go and list it because they're going to know that there's not many options for them and they're probably not going to get many offers. So when I'm talking to an owner of a property and he's showing me signs that he might be tired of being a landlord, I start asking some questions. What is it truly that they're looking for? And if they start telling me something that I can help fulfill, great, we can move on. So if they're trying to get out of a property, not necessarily at any cost, but just trying to get out of it, then I'm gonna start picking their brain a little further and I'm gonna see, well, are you trying to get out yet keep money coming in? Or are you trying to get out so you get a lump sum of money? And if so, what are you gonna do with that money? If they don't know what they're going to do, then I explain how holding money in your bank account is actually making you lose money. So then I offer them some proposals, and quite frankly, one of them is owner financing. So I do some number crunching. I usually do it in my head, or I just pull out a quick calculator on my phone. And you know, if they have a $100,000 piece of property, I may offer them, you know, a 3 or 4% interest rate if they hold the note for, you know, 4 or 5 years. So basically, I would be able to put some money in their pocket right now, putting a down payment in, and then finance the rest. Let's just say it's $100,000 for this example, and then they're going to make some sort of payment every year. And if they want more money, instead of raising the interest rate, I'm just going to bring the amortization time frame lower. So maybe from a 30-year to a 20-year, or maybe even a 15 or a 10-year. And usually people want their lump sum back. They want to give you a balloon payment. They don't want to hold a note for 15 or 30 years. Many landlords that are in this situation are, you know, a little older, and they don't know how long they're going to live, and they have plans for this money, whether it's pay for college in 3 years or something else. So I like to find the goal of what they're trying to do through my conversation. So now comes the proposal. This is step number 2. What I do is I actually don't give one proposal saying I will buy your house for $150,000 on a 30-year fixed rate. I don't do that. What I do is I give them between 3 and 5 different proposals, and it's going to go from the highest price to the lowest price, and from the worst terms to the best terms for the seller. So the highest price might be, hey, I'll give you $200,000, but I want it at 0% interest, and I want you to amortize it over 30 years. Then I can move on to something a little bit better, saying, hey, I'm going to give you $175,000, and it's going to be on a 15-year note at maybe 2% interest. And then so on and so on. And I can do any kind of combination of interest rate, term, and price. This is all up for negotiation, but this is my starting point. I will give some proposals that make sense for me, and based on the conversation, sounds like it might make sense for the seller. So it's important that in your proposal stage, you don't just give one option, because it's kind of like take it or leave it. But when you give 3, 4, 5, the message that it relays to the seller is that I'm negotiable. I'm someone you can work with. So please tell me what you think. Which one would you choose? And if they don't choose any one of them, I would say, which one are you leaning towards? And then we can start negotiating. Let's just say it's this one over here. Then we can kind of negotiate based on what it is that these terms are. And they might want just a little bit more money, or a little higher interest rate, or a lower term. And this is all up for negotiation until the contract is signed. Okay, now that we've done the proposals and we've come to a negotiation, we are going on to step number 3, which is doing all your due diligence. So here's how this looks. When it comes to due diligence, I'm really talking about inspections and estoppel letters, and then a pro forma. Okay, so what this means is that you have a time frame within your contract that you have negotiated to go and take a look at the property. You can send a licensed inspector, you can do it yourself, you can do anything you want really. So when it comes down to the inspections, I highly recommend you hire a professional, unless it's just, a vacant piece of land or something, then there's not much to inspect. But hire a professional, get some numbers, get some data behind it, take that report and meet with at least 1 or 2 general contractors, and let that general contractor give you a price on fixing everything that has been found wrong with this property. And possibly there might be replacement of electric panels that are prone to cause fires, or maybe pumping a septic tank, or just changing out outlets or a roof or whatever it is. Just get the quote, find out how much it's going to be. Next step is going to be your pro forma. So what that means is that it's your estimate on how much money you can make and how much it's going to cost and all of that. So you take your purchase price with the terms, then you put in your estimate for all the repairs, and then you check what is your total in cost, and then you do your math with your tenants or tenant that is going to be there, or your expected tenant, and you see if this is a good return on your investment. And if it's not, it's okay. You should have a back out clause within your contract, so you can get out of that contract if it's not good for you. Another option is you can, before you back out, you just go back to the seller and you say, hi, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, look, I know that we have come to an agreement on this price. And what I've done is I've done inspections. I've already spent $400 here on inspections. And then I've received some quotes from general contractors to make these repairs. And what I found is that when it comes to the total price in, it's just higher than I'm willing to pay. It doesn't meet my formula. And no offense to you. So if you would like to back out, that is just fine. We can back out and cancel this contract. It would be me backing out. And if you would like to maybe renegotiate a little bit, maybe let's pick some better terms for me, or maybe a little lower price, or maybe you pay the contractor to make these repairs, or something in the middle, then I would be glad to move forward with you. But as it stands with the current contract we have, I'm sorry, I cannot go forward. What would you like to do? And just let the seller decide. This isn't a mean tactic to lowball a seller. This is just finding a win-win. The seller has to understand that there might be things in their property they did not know was wrong. If they have a Federal Pacific electric panel, then good luck finding an insurance company that's going to actually give you insurance at a reasonable rate. There's only a few insurance companies out there in the state of Florida, at least, that will write that policy because they are known to cause fires. So if you see a Federal Pacific, instantly that's $2,000 to replace that panel with permits by a licensed electrician. So negotiate that and find the number that works for everybody. Overall, when working with owners, you have to understand that you're usually dealing with a person, and they're dealing with a person. So communication is not about strong-arming each other, but it's about digging in and finding what is their goal and meeting their goal while expressing yours. Because I do not buy properties at fair market value. I buy properties that make sense for my formula. It's my Excel spreadsheet that shows me whether this is a yay or nay when it comes to investing into real estate. So find what's really important for that seller, negotiate, double check all your work, and then if you need to renegotiate, do that. If not, just go forward and close the deal and start being a new landlord. All right, so if you found this helpful, please click the like button and please comment below. I would really appreciate you telling me about your experience as a landlord. Also, I would love it if you could subscribe to this channel or follow me on TikTok. I am active there. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.